Nishadhi. It's great to welcome you to our The Agentic Quality Show. It's so nice to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
And the reason I'm excited is because you're a director of quality at Slalom. So you work with a lot of customers and you see what's happening in the industry and the challenges that companies are facing when it comes to quality, and you get to solve those. So I can't wait to talk to you about that. And can you tell us more about your role and what you do?
Yeah, so at Slalom, I lead work at intersection of quality engineering and delivery transformation. The reason why I say that is like I partner with clients across industries. And example would be like financial services, retail, healthcare, you name it. I've worked with many of those clients, and we work to modernize how they ship software. And the most important thing is like we have this mindset of like doing the right thing for the client and being curious and cautious and making sure that we deliver the best for the clients. We have a big team of quality engineers across the Americas and also in LATAM, and all of us are focused on delivering the best quality software, especially in this agentic AI era. We are focused on like getting our skills leveled up. We do tons of coaching activities for clients, making sure that not just people getting onboarded to AI or tools, but making sure that they actually use them effectively, and there's governance around it. So there's lots of work, like very interesting work that we do, and I'm happy to be a part of that.
Great. Amazing. And so you work, like you said, with a lot of customers in a lot of different industries. So what are the common pain points that you see, common challenges that the companies face when it comes to doing quality?
Yeah, so the patterns are sort of consistent, right? Teams are pushing for faster releases, no matter what. If you're in agentic world or if you're not in agentic world, that's like pretty much the same still. That's what I see. And the same issue with confidence isn't keeping up. So that's one of the biggest challenges that I've seen. Automation exists, but the signal is often too noisy, like flaky tests, failures, and environment drifts. That still exist. And quality ownership is also fragmented across the board, and tools, and making sure that not having consistent standards are not still to the point that where I want to see it in the industry. This risk showing up late in UAT or production, because those earlier signals that needs to be there aren't still there, and many teams aren't anchored in customer journeys, but rather they test a lot, but not always what matters the most. So I think if I think about the challenges that I see, it's pretty much the same, but a different version of the same challenges are showing up in this era as well.
Yes, I've seen that in my experience as well. So confidence in the releases and confidence in the test automation, and how much do we trust the signals that we're receiving from our test automation? That's been kind of like a long time problem for test automation. And how do you see that being solved today? Do you see AI helping us with that at all?
Well, I think the biggest thing that AI will bring to the table and is bringing to the table is that early detection, right? We don't have to wait to do an analysis for like do a 3 weeks discovery and come back in like 6 weeks trying to analyze the data points. Now it's so fast. Like you can, as an example, if you have a buggy system, there's so much easy ways to like extrapolate that data point and then cluster that data and then actually make informed decisions, well-informed decisions, not just guessing points, because we do have these data points in our systems. So that's like a way that AI is solving some of the biggest pain points. And then the other piece I can think of is like we have difficult time starting off automation, right? It's a fledged project to be honest. Sometimes in some of the organizations, I'm not talking about these big tech companies, I'm talking about the majority of the mid-sized companies where they're struggling to start automation. But if you ask me now how fast it's going to take, like just build a scaffolding automation, super fast. I mean, you can build a system within like an hour, like not a fully functional system, but like to some point, right? So those are the things that I think that because there's so much knowledge in our finger point, the starting of some of these gates, some of these checkpoints, some of these transformation has become much faster than where I ever seen before. Like I've been in industry for so long, and I've seen like how much an effort to start that first automation run. But I'm seeing significant improvement in that area. So I think if you use it right, if you use it the way it's supposed to be used, thinking about keeping the human in the loop and then having those guardrails, there's lots of potential with the new technologies coming along.
And as far as the tools for test automation, do you have any recommendations or what is your approach? If the mid-sized company, like you mentioned, want to start on test automation, or maybe they want to expedite their test automation efforts, like what's your recommended way for them to start?
I do not want to recommend any tools. I do have my favorites, to be honest. But the reason I do not want to recommend is it depends on the situation you are on. I know it's a very consulting answer, but it's actually the honest answer I could give. It depends on what type of a tech stack you have, and then how it's easy to connect, like the integration piece, and how effective it will be like the long run. I would always advise to start small. And I actually had a client conversation this last October. They do have some level of automation, but they want to go forward with AI automation. But then the team does not have the ability to actually start automation right away because the team was full of manual testers. So there's like few different steps, right? Like first you have to upskill your people. That's like my first step, not to start automation with AI. You got to start with like make sure that you have some level of engineering that in that team, and then you start with that. And then you start with the small subset of test cases. And that's my approach always. Like do not go big bang, because when you look behind, there's so much tech debt behind you, and then you're not gonna catch up with it. So I work with these clients to not just identify tools, just coming with a strategy, overall strategy that could be transformed into success, not just a story to tell that we adopted a tool. How are you maintaining that tool? How are you governing that tool? And what is the ROI? That's the key point, right? For these tools that you're using, you will pay money. And there's a lot of money you spend. And are you getting the ROI that you are expecting? Do you see a reduction of defects? Do you see faster releases? What is the measurement? So I think I do all kinds of techniques and like strategies around that to make sure that this is not just a hype and it's not a bubble, that we're actually living through these changes.
And do you help organizations actually figuring out these ROI and metrics?
Yes.
How do you basically approach the leaders in this organization to explain the value of test automation, right? And what kind of metrics do you use for that?
So metrics is a tricky question. We know AI is changing our profession in the QE, right? We used to track how many bugs were logged, how many test cases, take them out of the door. I don't think that they matter anymore. I think what matters is like how are you filtering those release efficiencies? How are you filtering the production defects? How are you filtering how fast a sprint cycle works along with your regression? Is your regression cycle being reduced, right? Those are some measurements. If I take an example like a tool like Cursor, and you can measure how much lines of code has been generated by AI versus manually, and how much of a defect count is generating based on the code lines that you have generated. So there's like techniques you can use to make sure that those measurements are correct, and then slowly and gradually you measure those numbers. Is it reducing? Is it increasing? Is there a change in those? Is it just a plateau? This is nothing changing, right? Like many of these tools that's available, they have dashboards you can measure. I think that's another story to tell, like there's more advanced ways for us to measure the outcomes and see the benefit of the tools. It's not just hypothetical anymore.
Yeah. So that's about measuring the ROI of the tool that you're bringing. But you also mentioned that we do want to trust the signals of the test automation, right? So, so with AI, you can automate faster. But how can you make it more trustworthy? Like, can AI help us make our automation and our releases more confident, and how?
I am seeing a very practical impact on how AI is making automation more trustworthy. One thing is the self-healing ability of some of the tests. And this is one of the things that I saw during another talk related to a certain AI tool. And then we were working through a demo of vibe coding. And then we were looking at the code, it was failing. And then the demo was failing. And then the presenter was sharing. So this happened, but there's a fix for this. And she was trying to explain why the failing is happening. And by the time we were talking, I'm not kidding. The test got fixed while we were talking, and then there was a green pass sign. So what I'm trying to say here is, like, these test healing abilities, like that's something we never had. Like, if you asked me 2 years ago if I encourage you white testing, I would say no, because I mean, it's high maintenance. Even to date with self-healing, it's very high maintenance, right? Like, I think the biggest impact I see with this test healing abilities, like there's lesser flaky test. And that's where we can really utilize some of the advanced testing abilities with some of these tools and in AI tools. And then the other piece of it is, like, it's so easy to plug into like CI/CD with these new tools available. And I have talked to many clients that they say they have automation, but they don't run it on CI/CD pipelines. And what's the point then having automation, right? If it's not running, but it's become so easy, like anybody can and are able to do it and then fix their cycles. They could have like much frequent release cycles based on that, because you run your test daily or by whatever the cadence you have. There's more stability in those tests running. And then the third piece I can think of is, like, when you have automation, how many times, like, if there's a failure and then you actually go log a bug, like that, like really logging bugs and like following up on, is it a test failure or not? But there's faster ways to analyze those test results now, to the point like, oh yeah, we can actually debug faster and then get to know to the trouble point faster than we used to. So those are a few things that I could think of like how AI will help like stabilize automation.
And what about understanding customer behavior? Have you seen AI helping in that manner? Because a lot of times we're focusing on the functional requirements, right? But what do actual customers do?
So that's one place I'm still reluctant, to be honest, because I think that's where the human in the loop will come to play. Um, as an example, if I write something and I would sometimes ask ChatGPT, hey, review my article and give me some feedback. And then I would also share that article with one of my colleagues and say, hey, just review my article and give me some feedback. But it's so funny, like so far until like to this date, I would always prefer the human feedback, because like
Interesting.
it's not, I think we can train the models to be as much as human they can, but they are not really human. So it's fascinating for me to say that. But I mean, this is one of the recent article of mine. Like I had like one of my mentors review my article. I was like, oh, this is what I was looking for. This is the feedback I
Yeah.
was looking for.
Yeah.
And I was very happy with it. So
Yeah.
that's like one piece I want to share, that like these customer journeys, customer pain points. I think the positive side is we can filter out customer input, like customer feedback surveys and stuff, and then get data points very fast. That I do agree. I think that's much faster than a human going through all the customer surveys and getting feedback and trying to understand what the customer journeys look like. How can we build customer-centered design, human-centered designs, right? That piece is, I think that's getting lots of benefit from it. But I still want to say, I'm still reliant on like the real human behavior when coming up with like products and strategy. It should be a conversation with the AI, and then it shouldn't be just a decision made by AI, because we are still human and we want to make sure that humanity is still there.
Yeah, so I think I agree with you. You're saying that gathering the data about the customer experience, we can use AI for, but then analyzing what the customer's experience should be, or maybe empathetic approach to customers and analyzing where the gaps are, then that should belong to human, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talking about kind of like what should the humans do and what should AI do. So uh, tell me more about inequality, right? Like what do you think is more of a human responsibility should be and more of AI responsibilities?
It's very interesting you that asked that question because I've been grappling with this because we used to, I mean, I grew up in the early to 2020, early 2000 in the QE field. And we are so used to the testing pyramid. We are so used to the testing life cycle. And I was actually writing something about it, trying to understand like, okay, does the testing life cycle exist anymore? Do we need a testing pyramid? I know our job is changing. So what are the quality gates, right? Like what is the new quality? Is it linear or is it something non-linear? So so I think we are still in a conversation about what it looks like, right? Um, if you think about agentic quality, it is when quality becomes part of that operating model, not a phase. Like we don't even know what the operating model looks like right now because things are moving so fast. And practically, it means like setting trust checkpoints across the life cycle. Like this is what I'm envisioning. I could be wrong in a couple of years, but I'm trying to sort of set guardrails for the next couple of years to come. So I'm saying trust checkpoints across the life cycle. That means before code, during code generation, before merge, before production exposure, and after the release. So I think those will still exist, but the tasks we do in those phases will differ. Agents can move fast inside a sandbox, right? It's very fast compared to a human working through the test. And then, but they cannot cross autonomy boundaries unless they produce evidence. That's my thing. So security checks, tests that has like performance readiness. And how can we trace, like, how are we tracing the changes that the AI code generates, right? And there needs to be a monitoring plan. I think those are the activities that we will have to focus on. The point is not to slow down because it's all about fast releases, right? We just have to move forward and faster with proof. Do you have?
Yeah.
That's
So
what I want
sounds
to.
like you're saying that the humans would do the strategy and kind of coordination of all of these agents' activities, like a performance, different checkpoints. Like we're gonna come up with what that looks like, but then we'll use the agents to execute on each specific activity potentially.
Agree. And this is why I want to say, like, it elevates the role. Like, I know there's a lots of fear and anxiety about the quality engineering role. And I honestly want to say it's not just quality engineering roles. Anybody in the tech industry has that concern and the fear and the anxiety. It's not for the QE. My perspective with our role is it will elevate our role because we will be moving forward from script writing to designing verification fabrics like standards, guardrails, because somebody needs to be there to question, are we doing the things right by the client or the customer, right? You need to think about coverage strategy. You need to think about observability. You have to sort of have like an evidence pack towards the end to say, yes, we built this through using AI technologies, but can we trust this? Right? We will. I mean, if you're not already, you need to. Leaders should shift from like counting tests and bugs to managing risks and customer outcomes. And they need to be stewards of governance, right? What do we trust? Why do we trust it? You have to ask these questions. And how do you audit decisions when AI is in the loop? So very interesting
Yeah.
things. And I think I see a brighter future, to be
Yeah,
honest.
and thank you for saying that. This is such a hot question on everyone's mind right now. Right? Is AI going to replace quality? Everyone's asking that question. So thank you for addressing that, first of all. And second of all, so now that we are going to be becoming these orchestrators, so what do you think the skills that we would need the most in quality engineering? Like, what are the skills that people need to build right now to become this new role of the QE that you just described to us?
I'm glad that you asked that question because I think that's part of the piece that some people are missing, because this is a new skill set, not just for the engineers, but the executive leaders who are listening, or like a CEO, CTOs, that they need to learn this as well. So I myself, like I've been in this for the last 2-3 years. I've been learning a ton, not just through the regular ways of learning, like not learning a tool. I just want to understand in depth what's happening. So I've been listening to these podcasts. I've been paying attention to lots of industry leaders, trying to understand what is exactly happening. Because it's not like any technology revolution we've seen in the past. I remember the day that we had the record and playback button for Selenium IDE. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Like that icon came out. I was so excited for that. And then it took like few weeks to figure out what's happening. This is not that. So just being verbose, understanding what is AI, what is like the fundamentals, like what are your AI found, what is the context, what is tokens, like not just being technical and coding, but that piece is critical. So I want to name that like number one, because you need to understand what's happening in the industry, how fast things are moving, because what's next, like yesterday, if you have something, today is different. So it's hard to keep up, but I would highly recommend being in the know. Just being your own researcher. Be that. If you are in engineering, that's like number one. And then you need to grow these skills, especially on the strategy side. If you're like a leader in the strategy side, I would say like you probably have some level of systems thinking, but I would say like now you need advanced level of systems thinking and risk-based strategy. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you have created a testing strategy in the past, you have had a risk assessment, you've had like mitigation strategies. I'm saying go a little beyond that. Like think about that overall risk of like having some technology being autonomous, and how are we managing that risk that it's not building something that we do not want. And then I think observability literacy is the third thing. I mean, it was a separate job in the past. Like you have separate, like say, sorry, engineers looking at this reliability metrics and stuff. But I think if you are a QE, that's a core skill to have now, so that you can use that skill to analyze your data points, especially with respect to automation and defects, right? One of the biggest challenges we have is when you say that I want a QE engineer to my team, always it's like cost, right? You don't have the money, you don't have the capacity.
Mhm.
But what if we, the QE, use some of these observability literacy techniques to identify a heat map, like where the most critical issues lie? And then what if we can focus on automation just for that particular area, right? We will bring down the costs. We will make sure that we are utilizing whatever we have in our hand effectively, right? And then the last piece I can think of is data fluency. These are all the techniques that I have worked on, and I've seen the benefit of sort of learning and adopting to these. You need to know your data. Like it's not a minute thing anymore. You gotta know how to understand, how to cluster, how to classify your data. So data engineering skill set is another piece I would say that that will help the industry leaders. So, like, one, yes, AI literacy becomes important, knowing where AI helps and where it can mislead and how to validate its outputs. And also think like, do not underestimate yourself, and then keep that human centered quality as your core skill. Like accessibility, usability, safety falls. Those are the kind of questions you need to ask and challenge with some of the new systems that's making. So yeah, I think we will still have quality engineering. It's just our role will be different, our skill set will be different, but I think
Yeah.
it's for the betterment. We are
Yeah.
using our brains for something great.
Yeah, and thank you. You pretty much created the curriculum, for the QA engineers on what to learn, because data engineering, like that's the whole field. And for QE, it's important to understand that, especially in the AI world. And the observability, like that's an important part of the quality, and knowing how to understanding what's happening in production through observability is super important. So thank you for creating this roadmap for our audience. Right. So you also mentioned the importance of how the quality leadership and engineering leadership should be thinking about AI and quality. So what do you see resonates the most with the engineering leadership when it comes to quality and AI? How do they look at it and how they should look at it?
That's a great question. If you think about the executives, right, they care about business outcomes, faster releases, fewer incidents, lower rework cost, and strong customer trust. And AI becomes existing when we frame it as like improving decision quality, reducing risk while increasing speed. If you think about an engineering leader, I think they need to think about it as not a challenge, but rather a tool that's in their toolbox to advance themselves. I don't want to call this as a AI as a productivity tool anymore because we are far beyond that. But your mindset needs to be, this is something, if you are an advanced engineer, this is something that would make your life, day-to-day life, much easier, right? It's not just about your team adopting the tools. You need to make sure that you are also well versed. You can have a conversation and build the trust with your team in these tools being built. And if you are a hands-on engineer, you want to write code. So you don't. I mean, part of me, I don't want to use auto-generated code most of the time. I want to like solve the problem. So that mindset you need to shift to, let's think about the bigger architectural picture, right? How can I use my time not doing the day-to-day busy work, but rather thinking about like how to build robust systems top to bottom. Like I would be focusing more on that, like thinking about that, not just speed, but then the usability, the robustness, the reliability of these systems. So I would want the engineers to sort of shift that mindset of like just building to more strategic development.
Yeah.
Think broad.
Yeah.
Think about the big picture.
That's more of a quality mindset, right? Don't just think about
You need to have it.
And yeah, and you need to have it even with AI, right? Like we think
Exactly.
that AI is going to make things easier for QE, but it doesn't mean the developers can stop thinking about it, right? Like we still need the quality mindset across the board to make it the most efficient kind of machine to deliver quality builds to production. Anyway.
100%.
And do you see any skepticism still in leadership and companies on adopting AI in quality? And what is that? What does that look like?
Unfortunately, yes. I mean, I do lots of conference talks and I go to these conferences not just to like do talks, but also like learn from the industry best practice leaders. Like some of these conferences I see like there's a big division between is AI going to take our jobs versus like AI is going to take our jobs. And then there's like a small cluster of people in between that's I think they're still skeptic, but they're also thinking no, I can see the value in it, but I'm not gonna jump into the sea yet, right? It's still there because it's new, it's raw, it's changing. So I don't think that skepticism would go anywhere soon. It will be there. It's just our responsibility. I think this is why the quality engineering mindset come into play. Because if you're a quality engineer or have that mindset, it doesn't matter if you are a QE or a software engineer. Like if you have that mindset of like, yeah, why am I building this? What is the purpose of building? I want to make sure that our customers, our clients have the best experience possible, right? If you have that mindset, I would say you would still you would still question. You would still question the trust. You would still question the output that's coming from a black box because we don't see it. But um, I always challenge the LLM that I'm using for like that. That's how I am reducing whatever the skepticism that I have. if I get an answer from GPT or the Claude or whatever the tool that I'm using, I would always ask like, you sure that you're thinking about this way? What if you think this way? And I want you to say like, what are you thinking? I want you to type out and say, this is why you came up with this answer. Or I would actually challenge the AI, say, do you have a reference to this? Like, and I will go and double check my references. And sometimes it can lie very confidently, right? So if you have skepticism, there's no other way to reduce that unless you use it. So that's why my journey with AI has been just that. I am, I'm a mother of 2 kids, and for me, it started because I have kids. Because I was like, oh, my kids will be using this tool like anytime soon, and if I don't even know what these are, or the outcomes are, I can't even like coach my kids, let alone my team. So that's how I started this journey 3 years ago. And so I would say like, I still see it. I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon. There's lots of people who advocate against, not just against that, like being cautious about the tools. Also, there's people against the tools. So that conversation will be very lively for the next next 2 to 5 years. I think that's going to be very lively conversation around it. It's just unless you jump and then you see what's in it, you would not learn it. So that's my advice for the folks who are still skeptic about it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it comes to how do we measure this, right? Like if we can measure the success of using AI, then that's great. Like in test automation world, like can we automate and speed up our regression testing, right? Can that lead to the less defects in production releases and so on? If we can prove that, then I think that would be all worth it, right? At the end of the day.
100%. Yeah.
And so, with all of this talk, how do you see quality organizations change in the next 2-3 years? Like, what do you see changing as far as this structure or skills or anything?
I think this question was asked for me in one of the conferences as well. And I told them, like, do not come back at me in 2 to 3 years because Jeffrey Hinton and all these big AI gurus have like been wrong in many of their assumptions and predictions. I think for quality engineering, this is what I see right now. I think there's going to be lots of upskilling and also diverting skills. I mean, let's be very honest and transparent. I think people who are reluctant to adopt AI, they might have to shift their career path. And then people who are adopting, they really need to adopt new skill set. Your quality mindset is not going anywhere. It needs to be there. It should be there. It will be there. But then you will have to change how you think about your job. I think you will have to think what your day-to-day task going to look like in the future, because it's not going to be the same. So the next 2 to 3 years, I think we will have a different test life cycle. I don't know what it is right now. I'm thinking and I'm sort of noodling around it, like what it's going to look like in agentic world. I think there's going to be, instead of activities, I would say there's going to be like signals of quality verification. Like this is the example would be, yes, I created 10 test cases using new Playwright automation in GitHub Copilot, right? It's not just about like doing that. It's about making sure that what's the change failure rate? Like what is the number of production incidents based on this? And it's more of that confidence and that checkpoints that we have. And then how quickly you can detect and recover. So those measurements will change. So for QE engineers, I think their checkpoints, that life cycle of testing and the activities they do will totally differ. Also, the other piece is the tools that we have. I think I really advise people to not to get hung up on one tool, because it seems like they're changing super fast. So just understand the concepts. because the people who are building these tools, they're putting lots of thought leadership behind it. And then they're thinking far ahead than we think. So if you learn these tools, if you have like at least like, if you don't have a paid subscription, just have a trial subscription, learn those tools. I think that these tools, being on top of the tooling would be also something that we need to think of. Like, we've been using Selenium for how long now? That ain't going to be the thing in the
Yep.
future. So I think that's going to change fast.
Yep.
And then I think the last piece is, you will not be the bottom of the surgical food train. Because if you want to survive this tide, survive this, revolution, you need to be in the top. And the way you do it is you do all the things that I said. You got to upskill. You got to know what you're doing. You got to know the new tooling techniques. And then you got to admit that your job is changing too.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's going to be an interesting few years to come,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. And what are the risks of not adopting AI or not upskilling yourself?
Okay, I'm going to use like a one-liner I've used in the past. If you think that you're losing your job, it's not because of AI. If you don't handhold with AI, you will lose your job. If you are a person who's like partnering with AI, you will move forward. So that's what I want to.
Yeah.
That's all I want to say
Yeah.
for this question.
Thank you. And last question for you is for quality leaders who are listening today. So what's one practical step that they can take now to move towards this AI-driven or agentic quality?
I think adoption. Like, if you're still waiting to adopt, I think you are too late to the game. I would say just don't be afraid. There's no place for us to like worry about, oh, this is happening, and like just be a victim in this mode. Right? You gotta move out of that ladder and then say, no, I am learning this tool. I am upskilling myself. I am in this with the technology moving fast. And that's, I want to say, like, just do not wait. And then just move out from these misconceptions where like AI is just another productivity tool or won't change headcount. It will. And I think thinking like that is unrealistic. I want you to listen very carefully when I say that. Like, roles that don't adapt will be automated. And then even people who do adapt may find their jobs look completely different. So, like, the shift starts with moving humans to higher value work and judgment. And that's what you need to focus on. Focus on governance, focus on customer outcomes. Over time, it will be a mixed change. But you hear these predictions and how it's a disruption, and also it's a job replacement. I don't want folks to be hung up on that. Like, I want to make sure that people just know that could happen. I don't think it's going to happen overnight. It'll take time, and then you prepare for what's coming in front of you. That's what I want to say.
Yeah.
And it's true to me too.
Thank you, Nishadhi, for this conversation. It's been insightful, and I loved hearing your thoughts on the future of quality and AI, and hear your experience from the industry about all of that. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Have a good day.
And this is it for our episode of the Agentic Quality. Thank you, everyone.